shot. Starts and it runs. There we go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Another one lives on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we just turned up. We've got some news on the engine that's just been tested. So, yeah, Marcel, you were just saying you've
Turn the compressor off first.
All right, okay, cool. Very busy in the shop today. Very busy. Crikey. Right, mate, so you were just saying, this is, you did a second, longer test.
Yes, we did a second longer test on this engine, and unfortunately, to our holy surprising horror.
So just explain the, you did that, what you actually saw.
We have this engine on the test stand, and we've run it for a bit longer with the cooling system all hooked up. So it's reached closer to operating temperature. So we're just checking for coolant leaks, oil leaks, giving the injector pump a bit more of a test of running at different RPM and so on. And we see just along here, the paint lifting and these little water droplets forming and pushing through the paint. The paint was still a little bit soft because enamel takes ages to harden. It only hardens properly really once the engine's been run a bit. But we see these water leaks and we realise immediately that block is compromised.
Yeah.
There was a hairline crack that had not completely pushed through, and it wasn't a crack that was visible.
So you would have been
wasn't
just
apparent.
Yeah, right.
With high-end testing equipment, and this is something nobody does routinely on old cast iron blocks like this. It can be done, but to detect something like this would be a pretty difficult thing.
So it would have been only halfway coming from the inside out of the metal.
Yep.
And you wouldn't have seen the hairline crack.
We wouldn't have seen the hairline crack.
Right.
And so we immediately then, this block's compromised. We've got to dismantle the whole thing again and find the customer a block that is in better condition.
Okay, that's some hours that went into that.
A lot. So what we then did is to investigate further and establish beyond any doubt that the block itself was compromised. Where it cracked here was along a line where you had rust deposition, sort of like almost like a sort of a sedimentary rust buildup.
Yeah.
So this is the water line here. This is the bottom of the water jacket here, and this is where rust builds up and forms an encrusted layer. And that rust had actually compromised the integrity of that material there. Yeah. And we suspect what happened is that for a long time this block was run without coolant, but with just water, which isn't a good idea.
Right.
But in addition, we suspect that it had at least one freezing episode. So maybe it was up in the high country or somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was frosty or snowy or something.
Yeah.
And that combination of rust deposition and which wasn't visible through the core plugs.
Yeah.
It was down low, and then we suspect heating and cooling cycles to do with actual freezing and thawing.
Yeah, wonderful.
Have given us this, once in a blue moon type block failure.
You're not going to start doing those checks or get the equipment in to be able to do those checks in future. This is, like you say, once in a...
What we're going to have to do is inform our customers if they want that high-end test done, we can do it for them.
Right.
It won't be standard procedure, but we need to be able to say to the customer, if you want to be absolutely sure that you don't get one of these rare failures, that your block is in good condition, you're going to have to pay that extra.
Yeah.
And then we have to put a caveat on it and say, well, even then, we may not pick it up.
Yeah.
Unless you want to sort of go down the route of X-raying the blocks and stuff, which you really do for aircraft parts. You generally do that for an old Land Rover engine. Right. So the other thing that we've done is we've developed a whole system now to be able to flush the block out as a routine procedure.
Right.
We run, we've got these blanking plates and special sort of rubber bungs and pipes, which mean that we can isolate the cooling system here and basically run a cycle of brine and vinegar. And the brine, because it's brine, the little salt crystals don't fully dissolve, but they actually they abrade away very gently the rust buildup, and it means that that wouldn't prevent a problem like this, but what it can do is reduce the rust incrustation, and that can prevent hot spots developing, which especially on a diesel, less so on a petrol, could cause localised overheating and could cause a piston to seize in the cylinder. Once the engine's rebuilt and everything's nice and tight and running in, if there's so we've had to develop this because simply getting the block acid dipped, which is done routinely at the engine shop, doesn't get rid of enough of that build-up. This isn't our invention. This is a method that other people have used, successfully. And so we would run that solution on a 15-minute on, 15-minute off cycle with a bilge pump type arrangement. And then we can see by what's coming out, because the solution's filtered, we can see, well, how filthy is that material coming out. We can see things that we can't see even with an endoscope, because we can't get around corners and see what's behind the cylinders on the other side of the core plugs. So we can then determine, well, how rusted up is this block, and therefore we can advise the customer, well, if it's very rusty, we can say, well, that increases the chances that you may have a hairline crack or something like that.
Unbelievable.
And we did cut through here. We cut through into the cylinder wall, just to make sure that that degree of rust buildup hadn't actually significantly reduced the thickness of the cylinder wall. And we're quite satisfied that that's not an issue at all. They can handle a hell of a lot more corrosion. The problem is the rust deposits and flakes, and they're blocking the free flow of coolant, and also the heat transfer from the cylinder wall to the coolant, which is critical to maintaining the cylinder at a temperature that won't contribute or cause the piston seizing in the bore when it's nice and tight and being run in. We were lucky that we caught this before it went out to the customer. Imagine if the customer had put the engine in, and we in good faith had done it all right and the engine ran well, but then 20 kilometres down the road, the water started pissing out, and we're actually glad we caught it when we did. And even though it's not our fault, the block came to us like that. We hadn't encountered this before. We didn't have a procedure for informing the customer of the risk of this problem and asking them, do they want the high-end testing done? So in this case, we're just wearing the cost. The customer will pay for another block, and we'll cover the cost of disassembly and reassembly. And so, lesson learned. We just didn't feel right handing over a dud engine or charging the customer,
good on you,
double.
I doubt how many other businesses,
maybe not, but we try to be fair and do the right thing, and in this case, it's just part of our learning curve. We've come across the one in a blue moon thing, and we want to make sure it doesn't happen again if we can, or at least give the customer the advice, say, well, tell us what you want us to do. You want us to go ahead, because we don't know the history of these cars. And often the new owners don't know that. Sure, some families had it from day one, let's say 1971. And they put the coolant in by habit. Then that's not such an issue. You'll be using that as to show potential customers. This as a paperweight.
Definitely.
There's a lot of paper in the office. I might keep it as a paperweight.
Nice one. All good. Nice one. Cheers, mate. Thank you. We'll have a look at that. There we go.
If you love this video, you're going to absolutely love this one. So click on the screen and watch that, and I'll see you in the next video.